Force Recon, I mean, blood makes the grass grow, brother. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
these are your killers. I mean, you know, I think that with the whole Marine Corps ethos and culture, and also known as brainwashing.
What the is that? What is that, Private Pile?
Sir, jelly donuts, sir.
I think you know that. You know, we're Marines through and through for life. And Force Recon, I'm not gonna lie, they used to call it Divorce Recon. So you got all that going. Yeah, you got all that going for you. The Marine Corps, no lives matter, only the mission matters. You know, that's
no lives matter.
I hate to tell you, man, you're going. You're going.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And we have on one of my favorite guests. Yes, he's back. The Marine legend, Ben Pappas. If you don't know Ben Pappas, I'll have him introduce himself here in a second. But what we're doing here today, guys, is talking about the differences between MARSOC and Force Recon. And there's no better person I could think of that could come guide us through this process and educate us on this journey. So Ben, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them where they can find you, all your socials, and what you're doing.
For sure. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me again, Nate. Always a pleasure to be here on the show and your channel. Yeah, so right now you can find me on benpappas.com. It's kind of my flagship there. Find me on Instagram. Find me on YouTube as well, just Ben Pappas. Starting to grow the YouTube channel, getting a little more serious about it. Started since about May or so. You know, taking a page out of Nate's book, trying to catch up with him and learn. I got a ways to go. But yeah, doing that. Right now I do executive coaching, leadership and life coaching, help people to grow their businesses, help people to make breakthroughs through, you know, whatever areas they're dealing with in life, help them to make transformations, things like that. I've got a super cool coaching community and coaching membership. That's my main thing. I'm really pushing and promoting right now. And I do individual coaching, one-on-one coaching as well too. So those are my big things right now. But yeah, that's it. And it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you.
So, like I said, Ben was you were a commander in both, I would assume, right?
Yep, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Commander, both Force Recon and MARSOC. So what I want to do first is just have you give us, let's say, like a 30,000 foot view, because we're going to get into mission sets, pipeline, all that sorts of different things, but just 30,000 foot view for everybody who may not really know what either one is. Sort of like, what is each unit?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great way to start. So strategically from the top, like, let's just talk about like basic wire diagram stuff. Marine Raiders, you can see the skull behind me. That's the symbol for the Marine Raiders. I mean, it's not the insignia we wear on our chest or the badge, but it's historical from the Marine Raiders in World War II, the Death's Head, the skull, and the stars as well. They report to US SOCOM. They're full-time career special operators. They do full spectrum special operations. So their direct, reporting chain as far as for operational chain is in SOCOM, Theater Special Operations Command, work alongside the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, AVSOC, everything else. And then for Force Recon, they are a very special operations like force, very, I would say, hyper conventional with their skill sets in the Marine Corps. They're reporting to the Marine Expeditionary Force still today. And I kind of backstopped and took a look at some things to make sure, nothing has changed on me suddenly when I got out. But it's, yeah, so Marine Force Recon, highly skilled in reconnaissance and surveillance, highly skilled in sniping operations. They also do maritime interdiction, do ship takedowns, things like that in a limited role, but they still do it. And then direct action, precision raids, they are very proficient in that as well too. As far as the other full spectrum special operations, and we'll talk more about that's where it stops. They do clandestine reconnaissance and surveillance, but those are the main areas: RNS, reconnaissance, surveillance, and direct action. Whereas you have the whole other full spectrum special operations that the Raiders are doing under US SOCOM. So that's the big blue arrows right there.
All right, guys, if you want to turn yourself into a beast like Ben Pappas, then you got to get on the right fitness programming, and we got it for you over at Modern Athlete Strength.
All right, guys, I'm here to talk about our partners over at Modern Athlete Strength, the premier online tactical and performance-based fitness coaching app. All right, if you don't already know about Modern Athlete Strength, it's the weightlifting program and conditioning program that I use And a lot of military, special ops, police officers, fire department are all going the route of performance-based functional fitness. So if you're not sure where to start, this app is fantastic. It lays everything out for you. You have online coaches you can talk to directly, modify programming. All right, it's gonna get you in the best shape of your life, right? So it's a lot more than just heading in, working on some beach muscles. You're actually gonna be functionally fit, be able to protect yourself, protect your family, and you're gonna look good as well. Head on over, check out our programming, become part of the community. Let's do it.
Yeah, and so we're kind of like already into it. When I want mission set was kind of the next one I wanted to talk about. MARSOC, I do know the mission set because if you take 7 of them, there's 7 of the 9 Green Beret mission sets
right
down the line. So
for sure.
But I mean, we could talk a little bit about those guys. So I mean, they're doing the same thing. Green Beret's doing foreign internal defense, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, special reconnaissance. I mean, what else? Coin. What did I say? Coin.
All
counter. Yeah. What did I miss? Direct action. There's probably a few more. Right?
Yeah, I think you hit on all of them.
So I think everybody kind of probably understands like the MARSOC mission set, because MARSOC is really kind of like it's in special operations. It's the flavor that people like to talk about. But Force Recon, for me, because I saw when I looked at these real quick, I was like, okay, Force Recon. But then I saw MARSOC, the first one that popped up was Special Reconnaissance, and I'm like, okay, well that seems odd that we're doing the same thing, but maybe you could explain like the real mission set that Force Recon's actually focused on.
Yeah, I mean, Force Recon. Okay, so I can give you my own personal perspective when I was there, and then give you more the broader doctrinal approach as well too. So my own personal experience, I was in a direct action platoon. We were exclusively doing direct action against high value targets, working alongside also the Joint Special Operations Command during the
This is in Force Recon.
In Force Recon, right?
Okay.
Doing the hunt for Zarqawi. He was the leader of pre-ISIS of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And so there's a time when the carnage became so bad in 2006, 2005 from Zarqawi that even bin Laden had denounced Zarqawi. And so all major special operations units were conducting this. And so unburdened by a foreign internal defense, or working, we didn't work with anybody. We worked unilaterally, U.S. unilateral. And so the only people
that's a good point. Yeah.
So the only people unburdened to do U.S. unilateral were the Joint Special Operations Command units and Force Recon. And at the risk of saying things, this is like 20 years ago though now, so I can say it, but like, Task Force Red, maybe like Ranger Direct Action as well. So really 3 rotating units schwacking targets at the time that I was aware of. Maybe a SIF like unit, but they broke up the SIF even to the tier 2 direct action from Army Special Forces. So they were working with the Iraqis too at the time. And so we were regularly prosecuting targets on the target list. And so that was mainly my experience. We did some sniper saturation of places in order to do interdiction. We had another mission that was an Aero Scout mission that my commander actually had created with the MEF commander and whoever the broader regional commander out in Al-Anbar province was, but where we would loiter within Blackhawks, we'd loiter within helicopters and do interdiction of like rat lines, so to speak, interdiction of
interesting.
It was interesting because we'd be up there and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we have a situation there, and fly down. So you're doing basically a hasty interdiction, a hasty raid on a position. That was in the latter days of my last deployment with them. But so that was my own personal experience there. And we did do some, how would I say it? We would do direct action that was non-traditional as well, and do almost like Trojan horse type missions. If you know what I'm talking about, stay behind type Trojan horse, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so that led to a lot of interesting times and a lot of activity, for sure. Some engagements, things like that. Had a lot of success with it too. But then, and so traditionally, doctrinally, Force Recon now, from what I see some of these young guys today. I mean, they're doing VBSS. I had some experience in doing that as well too. But again, we were so focused on a theater of conflict, right? In Iraq.
The desert.
Yeah. So we did a little bit of it, but it's dangerous. It's inherently very dangerous. That's some big boy stuff right there. I mean, you've seen like, DevGru doing ship takedowns. I mean, people don't realize how freaking risky that stuff is. That's why,
trying to fast rope onto a ship. That's
yeah, or bottom up, climb up, scary stuff, all of it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so doctrinally, they do a lot of reconnaissance and surveillance still. But the main guys doing that, I would say, probably our reconnaissance battalion, which are some real gunfighters, some tough dudes. But they're usually a younger group, and they kind of grow
Hmm.
into Force Recon and try out for it after Recon Battalion. A lot of snipers, though, and a lot of badass green side Recon Marines and Recon Battalion. So
That's kind of perfect where you talked about sort of the young guys coming into Force Recon, because that's going to bring in the next thing I want to talk about was the pipeline differences, or the selection process, or
yeah,
how you even get into each of these units. I'm a little bit more familiar with MARSOC, but maybe you could explain the difference of like, is it like kind of a, I hate to say this, like a feeder unit from like Force Recon to MARSOC, or
I mean,
maybe just walk us through
I
like
would,
what
yeah,
the
for sure.
process of becoming a Force Recon Marine versus a MARSOC Raider is.
For sure, for sure. So back in the old days, right? Like, my days, let's say, and before that, for sure you would go in the infantry and then you'd try out for recon. And usually you'd go to recon, do a deployment of the recon, try out for force recon. And traditionally, Recon Battalion had the green reconnaissance, we call it green side RNS, reconnaissance and surveillance sniper work. They do raids and things like that, but it wasn't like precision direct action. Whereas you go to Force Recon, they'd call that the black side mission, where it was much more exclusively, direct action, ship takedowns, urban work, stuff like that, and more RNS that was a little bit more either urban or maybe even close target reconnaissance, stuff like that. You grow into some of those things as well, the CTRs. So so that's the old days. Then they go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
is there like a select, like a SFAS, or buds, or an actual Q course
Yeah.
to get into the black side of Force Recon,
So
or
the
do you
they
just kind of work your way over there?
you'd have to try out. You'd have to try out. Usually the kind of the to become a card carrying member of Recon to get the military occupational specialty, you have to go through the basic reconnaissance course. Then once you go through the basic reconnaissance course, which all Force Recon, all Recon Battalion go through, some guys will have enough experience and they will go right to Force Recon. Let's say if they were a sergeant in the infantry
Yeah.
and, somehow they got a good look and they wanted to bring them over there and they could hang, and they did it. And, they would go through BRC, SEER, basic reconnaissance course in Coronado, doing amphibious reconnaissance work, a lot of whoop downs, a lot of beat downs, learn how to patrol,
Dive school too, right?
dive school, jump school. And then once you get to the unit, free fall,
So you do
um,
all this in Force Recon.
yeah, all that stuff like that. And then there's a lot of stuff. It's funny because if you look online, you won't see everything they do, because historically Force Recon's not really book writers. They're not really, it's just culturally they beat you up. Like, you get kind of
Right.
ostracized. If you talk, you get ostracized, like
Okay. Yeah.
like even as I'm talking right now, I feel, and just like you do, you're representing your community. Like, I'm representing MARSOC and Force Recon, and I realize the weight of, some real heroes that are out there, and try to make sure I do justice for everybody, when I'm speaking about it. But yeah, so I mean, culturally very quiet professionals like that. A lot of high service regard as well. And so, basic reconnaissance course, you get a lot of snipers in Recon Battalion and in Force Recon. Green side reconnaissance, they go to advanced reconnaissance schools, urban reconnaissance, urban sniper. They really take
Oh,
pride
yeah.
in sniper work. And
Yeah. I've heard. You always kind of have that in the military, and everybody's like, who's got the best snipers? Force Recon is always looked at as one of the top, and it's even not as a non-soft conventional unit, it's still looked at as one of the best sniping units in the entire military.
yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. That's a point of pride for sure. And the guys do a lot of good work. And so, yeah, basic reconnaissance course, SEER, jump, dive, free fall, all the different levels of, free fall, like barrel jumping, all this crap. We had guys in every direct action platoon has the guys that can do everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like you guys do the same thing. You're like, this is nuts. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then so there are a lot of other add-on schools in between deployments that aren't advertised that you're going to. We used to send guys to lone operator course, all kinds of things. So
Well,
um
it's crazy to me because, in the Army, and I'm trying to think, the Navy, the Army, we don't have any conventional unit like that. The closest is like the LURS units
Right.
in the Army, but I mean, that's like, I don't think that's anywhere near what Force Recon is doing. Cause like the way you're describing it, anybody who's just hear that, if you just talked about all those schools and those mission sets and didn't say who it was, people would be like, oh, that's got to be some special operations unit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, I think, who they report to, because the caliber of the men there is, I had quite a few people try to try out for the combat applications group, again, not to skiff the podcast, but like, they're trying to, they took the long walk out in Camp Dawson and did all that. And a number of them, I had some didn't come back, some were there. When I was, one point, I was working with the interagency and I was down in Sicily during the Libya crisis, and a Pegasus package came in, again, trying to say the best things I can here, but a large group contingency force, a national mission force came in, and I was shocked that how many old Force Recon guys came out of the squadron and came over. Like, I was in second, I was in first. I was like, holy shit, I know you. What? That's where you went. Where have you been?
Yeah.
And
I'm
so,
I'm going to ask you about that later. Cause funny enough, two of my teammates were Fire Force Recon guys, two of the best soldiers I've ever worked with, by the way.
Kidding.
Very common in SF2. And we'll talk about that as we sort of get into like career decisions, I guess, a little bit, because, or why don't you tell us real quick though about MARSOC? Cause obviously MARSOC is very different in the, how you get into it. As far as I know, you have to have a certain amount of time in the Marine Corps. You have to try out. You got a full Q course. Just, it's different, but just like the Green Beret Q course, very similar, which is obviously different trajectory to get there.
Yeah.
Are you getting is there a lot of guys that are kind of like from Force Recon, the next step up is MARSOC, or is it a completely separate thing?
I would say that there are a lot of guys in Force Recon that would like to go over, but once they get into Force Recon, I think, first of all, it's hard for the commands won't let them go. And, they try to be competitive with, prestige, schools, all kind of leadership opportunities, all kind of career advancement. But they realize that, that's a place that a lot of them want to go. Some of them are stopped by their commands from going over, but I think it's gotten better. Yeah. You guys
happens in the Army too.
Right. Right. And so, they go through ANS, and then they go through ITC, and then they go through, some language school as well too, but then, get to the units and bolt on more schools after that. But, the basic MARSOC operator typically can't try out until they're a corporal. And again, people can comment if I'm dated on this, things have changed in the past couple of years, well, there it is. But, before it was always, you had to have at least one operational tour, because they want to know who you are. They want to know who you are. And so that's something where people look at, street soldier, street to SOF from, SEALs or Green Berets. It's very attractive that they can leave wherever and go right and try out. Whereas the Marine Corps is like, no, you're coming in here and we want you to get seasoned a little bit before we put you into one of our special units. Like, I could say anybody coming off the street, the vast majority going to Force Recon, you get eaten alive. They have no time for you. And you go into the kill house, and this, and you mess up, you're done. You're gone. You're out. You're gone. You're not deploying. You're not doing anything. You're going to go, I don't know, help out the supply section. So it's a waste of a person. So,
and I was an 18 X-ray. That's the straight off the street for SF, but the success rate is extremely low for 18 X-rays, and it's very low to get through the course. It's low, but it's also even lower sort of once you get to a team for that exact reason. Cause it's like, how that is, sink or swim. The second you walk in that door, you're expected to be performing at the ODA level regardless.
Right.
And straight off the street, you've been in the military for a year or two and all its training group. That could be a lot. There's just a lot that can go wrong there. Right?
Plus, the hardest instructors you're ever going to meet are the guys in the team. The guys.
Yeah.
They eat you alive. If you can't keep up, they'll come right to the command and be like, this guy needs to go, and you'll be gone. If you know how that is, if you get peered out, you're gone. That's
huge for us too.
So,
this might be an interesting question for you, like culture differences between the two units, because if you take like Ranger Regiment and Special Forces and like very different culturally, right?
Right.
It's like the old man like get fat and go jump out of airplanes in SF, and then like Ranger Regiment will
Right.
kick you out of Ranger Regiment as like an E7 if you like barely fail a PT test once, right? So is there like differences in sort of the culture between the two, younger, older demographic, or like how that works?
For sure. I will say this, the MARSOC guys are some of the smartest, most capable I've ever met. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, some of my team commanders, my captains, I got like Yale grads, like Princeton. I was like, they're like, sir, blah, 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 tell me these things. I'm like, I look over at, I was old Force Recon. My master gunnery sergeant, senior enlisted operator was old Force Recon. I'm like what language is he speaking? We're old door kickers basically. And they, and it's the young sergeants too. They're incredible. They're so smart. They're so capable in so many ways. So, I mean, I think there's much more of like an interagency flavor, more of a special forces-esque interagency flavor. Still the Marine Corps ethos, still the quiet professional of the Marine Corps Rifle Squad. I'll say that for sure. But they are much more, let's say, interagency savvy. Force Recon guys, I apologize for that, Bob. You be saying that. I'm just telling you my observations. But Force Recon, I mean, blood makes the grass grow, brother. You know what I mean? Like these are your killers. I mean, the MARSOC guys for sure, Raiders, no doubt about it, gunfighters all the way. But they can adapt. They go in the embassy and they can do interagency. They can do two-man team. They can do all the little breakdown stuff throughout the global soft
sort of the kind of the warrior diplomat that's really 100%. Just kind of really the Green Beret and MARSOC is really very the close. Only two is like a unit where we do that type of thing. Very close.
And they pride themselves from few people. Historically, Colonel Ortiz, who parachuted into France during World War II, a lot of legendary stories about him, but he was an OSS member, Marine, so you go back to culturally, historically like that. Also, there are a few other examples historically, but these are some of the roots, from World War II, from the Raiders, things like that. But then, Force Recon, really, really just, like I said, hyper conventional, doing very specific special operations taskings, right? Direct action, special reconnaissance, very good at it, very lethal, usually physically very strong, unbelievable physical conditioning, pride themselves on that, professionalism. I've heard it said, and I believe I've experienced this, where even, RRD, the Ranger Recon Detachment, would draw comparisons with Force Recon as well, too. So there's some Ranger-esque, a lot of Force Recon Marines go to Rangers. And, so like even Master Guns Keith Oakes was one of the first Force Recon Marines to go over to the combat application group, over to
really, yeah, that's
TAG,
interesting.
and he became a team leader there. And then he kind of opened the gates where more and more and more. I had one of my senior corpsmen, Mike Groman, big Mike Groman. Mike, if you see this, what's up, brother? He went over to down to the beach, and he stayed his career after our last combat deployment. He went over there and had done selection previously and stayed there for the rest of his career down at Damnick. So, some of these guys from Force Recon opening the doors for, that connection as well too.
Yeah. I got a real quick funny story I want to tell you about my buddy that was in Force Recon. Unfortunately, we lost him 3 years ago. So rest in peace to Nick. But so funny because I was on, my first team was a dive team, and I was on the team for, I think, probably like a year and a half before we ever got another new guy. And you know how it is like the new guy, it's like after a year, you're like, come on, like get somebody new through the door so I don't have to be the new guy anymore.
Right.
And after a year and a half, we're getting ready to go to Afghanistan. And I hear we're getting a new 18 Bravo, Junior Bravo out of the Q course. And I'm like, yes, finally, I'm not going to be the new guy anymore, right? I get to move on. And in comes walking Nick, right, as the next new guy. He's an E6. He was in Force Recon for 10 years.
Wow.
He was dive qualified, Halo qualified, like CivSit qualified, like all of the stuff, like it was so fun. He also had like 2 tours already in Force Recon.
Right.
And like, so he walks in and I was just like, I meet him and he like comes to parade rest. And I'm like, please please don't do that ever again for me. Like, you are so far beyond what I am. Like, I was just still the new guy, you know, because
Right.
he had all the respect in the world to the rest of the team as like his background. He was the nicest guy ever, and like still tried to like make me feel like he was the new guy, but like I was not. I was still the new guy for another year. But
That's awesome. They're good with that. The chameleon ops, they're good with that too. Because in the big Marine Corps, you got to be a chameleon. Like, because you go over to infantry battalion, you're like, what the hell is this? You're all fancy ninjas. They're like, no ninja shit over here. We're getting
Yeah.
blown up and we're fighting straight on, and which is real. It's no kidding. It's some big boy crap, man. Some big ball stuff, Marine Corps infantry.
Yeah.
And so they got no time for secret ninja stuff. They don't have
Yeah.
they don't, you're either helping or you're not. We don't think you're cool. We don't care. So you learn quickly. Don't
Right.
bring that attitude with you. You get beaten down, in the
Yeah.
rest of the Marine Corps.
All right. Next thing I want to ask you is, and this was, I don't know, it'll be interesting for your take on this. Does the Marine Corps actually need both? Because I hear that a lot of times too. Well, I really never hear like force recon needs to go away. It's always like that. And we did a whole episode on it of like, is
Right.
MARSOC going away?
Right.
Does the Marine Corps, like, do they actually need both? What's your thoughts on that?
I would say it's good for the Marine Corps to do both, just for, and again, relevancy, the magical, mystical, being relevant, gaining market share, quote unquote market share, because the more you have the Marine Corps brand doing things with the Special Operations Command, which is on the tip of the spear for the global war on terror, which
Yeah.
I mean, we're I think that's a never-ending war. I think it's important for the Marine Corps to have that. The Marine Corps will probably say, I would say the powers that be would probably say, do we need it? No. As a Marine Corps, we're set. We're all set. We can do full spectrum operations, air, ground, Marine Air Ground Task Force. But it's required by the Secretary of Defense, back in 2006. And it's something that's an enduring mission that hasn't gone away. And so I think, the question is with them, what's in it for the Marine Corps? Well, I think it helps with recruiting,
Yeah.
I think it helps with recruiting. And,
Yeah.
so you have people wash out sometimes, right? And so these aren't bad people. It's just maybe that wasn't for them, and they can go back to the infantry, and they're still going to be, good infantry operator,
Right.
good infantry, Marine, things like that. And so I think that's part of it. I think also, there's always the relevancy where if you have Marines in Special Operations Command, maybe you can get a MAGTAF some extra work, or maybe they'll be the first ones to be there. It's weird for people listening. It's a weird thing. I'm going to tell you one of the weirdest things for me in combat. It's true, right? It's a weird thing. I'll say, everybody listening, I was surprised, like my first time in combat, it's almost competitive to see who can get their unit into certain battles and certain things. I thought to myself, this is strange. This is really strange.
That's how the invasion of Afghanistan happened. That's how SF got, that's how Triple Nickel and 585 got that mission. Was, I believe, as far as the story goes, George Bush was sitting with his generals and was like, I want to be in Afghanistan as soon as possible. And the conventional military was like, we can be there in a year and a half. And, and because everything it takes to get everything over there and prep everything. And there was a 2-star SF general, I forget the name, who just raised his hand in the back and was like, I can have my dudes there in 2 weeks. And he was like, go.
Done.
So,
yeah.
But to your point, if you don't have any presence in that room, your unit's not going to get any of those missions.
Right. Exactly. So I think that with the whole Marine Corps ethos and culture, and also known as brainwashing.
What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
Sir, jelly donuts, sir.
I think, that, we're Marines through and through for life. And it's like, when, the mothership is sending you a signal while you're in the meeting, you're going to push Marine Corps agenda at some point, even one little bit, you're going to try and get them in there. So I think that's what the Marine Corps gets to. I mean, I'm probably missing some things. There's some genius out there who can put it in the chat, put it in the comments and say what else we're getting. But that's my take on it from what I saw.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, if people were to say like, well, do you need Green Berets and Rangers? It's like, well, they're doing enough of very different things typically that, like, yes. And to your point, as a recruiting strategy, yeah, you want to have cool shit in your branch for people to do. Right.
And, I'll say, man, like, working with Special Forces, Army Special Forces, I loved working with you guys. I always had a big degree of respect. Very cool, very calm, very professional. Didn't worry about dumb stuff.
Yep.
Was focused on what mattered. And I'll say it's a different cat that works with foreign militaries and goes into gunfights with foreign militaries. I was unilateral, man. I
People
was like,
really don't understand how
no,
crazy that
no.
is at the end of
Me
the day.
personally, I was American pure. It was like, we're going here, we're gonna go blow their doors in, and we're taking care of business. We'd go like a football team, and now I see my Raiders would be going out there. I'm meeting with Commander Zayed, whoever, for the Afghan commando. And I've got 2 sergeants are his main advisors for this battalion. I'm like, holy crap, or for this,
Yeah.
company. It's big boy stuff, man. That's not easy. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's very hard.
All right, next one, and this is one I see a lot, and it kind of, when we talked about it earlier, it kind of just seems like it would make sense. Should Force Recon be in special operations? Because I see that a lot. It's kind of people are like, well, they do. It's like basically a special operations unit. Why don't they fall under the special operations umbrella?
I think it's a great, they totally could. They'd be great. They would do a fantastic job. I think just like we were, I think you would see them working for other, sorry to bruise people's ego, but other hyper conventional kinetic outfits like the National Mission Force, where, point of aim, point of impact type targets, maybe not all the other secret squirrel special stuff, but like direct action, very clear, hyper conventional type things. They would be fantastic. But the Marine Corps, I don't think would ever let them go on the side. Like if it was a one-off, temporary tasking, they're assigned for mission specific things. I could totally see that working. And I believe they're still doing stuff like that. But I think that the Marine Corps works really well because it's like they have their own, it's like an own small microcosm, own armed forces. So when the president deploys the Marine Corps without a declaration of war for 60 days to go fight it out, I think they can go for up to 60 days. And they're like, hey, go in here. This is a big force. You send, a major MAGTF, and you have your own special forces in there, Force Recon and Recon Battalion. Now, maybe they're not going to, and they could grow into foreign internal defense, but they can do a lot of good work for the Marine Corps, spotting targets, you name it. And then obviously along that time, we'd have Army Special Forces, Raiders, everybody else joining in the party as well too. But the Marine Corps commander gets to keep his Marine Air Ground Task Force intact. So it's a very, very powerful punch when you have that MAGTF with a command and control and a special operations outfit inside it. So I can't see that ever happening, but they could, like, let's say if SOCOM needed them, they sheep dip them for a little while and have them work with the soft units. They would do very, very well. Very professional, humble professionals for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense especially from a command and control standpoint, if you had your own, which, I mean, honestly, if we talk about this in the future of war, I've been thinking about doing a video on this. When we talk about peer to peer, like special operations is not the main element. I know we got all the Gucci, image and brand from GWAT, right? But like, we go to war in a peer-to-peer conflict or like Ukraine, Russia, like we are there to support the conventional military, period.
Right.
And I think having your own special operations like unit that can support your own force, I mean, it takes a lot of the spider web command and control out of having to deal with all that, like different, you know how that is, like trying to command and control different units and, we need an SFODA to come help the 82nd with this. I mean, that can turn into not a nightmare, but it's just way more difficult to sort of get all those things integrated together than if it's just all under your own umbrella.
Exactly. If you think about like if a battle space owner, battle space commander, Afghanistan, Iraq, or wherever, future theater of conflict is like, Nate, I need your ODA here, like tonight, get over here. And you're like, we got to go check with, the JSOTF and we got to, then we got to, we got to do this and that. And they're like, what? So this way he's just like, spin him up, get him over here. I'll send the birds down. He's got his own aircraft. He's got everything. This commander, you're on the bird and you're taking go pills and you're gone.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Next one, and we're already at half hour, so we'll get here toward the ends. We don't need this to be that long, but next one I want to talk about is maybe sort of the way the community between the two, or like communities, but also what would you suggest? Because we obviously got a lot of young men that watch these channels that I know are interested. what would you suggest if you were a young Marine and you had the opportunity to go to either one, or, I guess it depends on when your career maybe, what would you suggest? Or like in your timeline as a young Marine, how would you suggest to go about that? What decision to make or what unit to go to or try to?
That's a great question. I didn't even think about that. This is a big, broad brushstrokes, and I hope I'm doing this justice to all my senior enlisted operators out there. I mean, these are all the long-term MARSOC operators, Force Recon operators as well too. I would say this. So if you want to seek the highest level of Marine Corps leadership that you can, and not as an officer, let's say as enlisted, first of all, I would say if you dream of being a first sergeant and sergeant major someday, those opportunities are coming now in MARSOC as well. But I would say if you're not ready to be a career special operator, don't go into MARSOC, because once they got you, you're in and you're done. You're never coming back to the Marine Corps. Like, let's say you're trying this out and you're like, in your mind, maybe right now you're like, you know what? I think I want to do a tour, and then I want to have like other tours, and maybe I want to be in a company, then a battalion, and I want that journey. Cool. Do it. I mean, it's a lot of great work you can do. Then I would say don't go to MARSOC. But if you are like, I want to do this for life, like you have a lineage like you, like, right, Nick, Mac V. Sog, your grandfather jumped into Normandy. We have that in common. Both of our families fought in Omaha Beach, which is nuts, right? In Normandy. And honestly, you don't see it. You don't see it that often. But so we have two crazies here together. But if you don't have that, if you don't want to be a career special operator, I would say, Force Recon, you'll have a chance to go back to the big Marine Corps, although Force Recon will try to pull you back as well, but you will stay more within, going to Marine Corps schools and things. And honestly, you may even have a better chance at promoting, because I'd seen some of the best highly decorated Valor Award staff sergeants, and you guys know who you are if you watch this, honestly fighting for them. And they're like, we don't have the boat space. We don't have the structure. They're great Marines. And then they go to special forces. And then I know General Mattis went nuts at one point. He's like, why are we losing these great people? We're losing them because we don't have room for them. What the hell's going on? Like, I think Earl Plumley used to be in Force Recon. He's a Medal of Honor winner.
Tons of Green Berets are prior service Marines. Very, very common. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. My best thing would be ready for, if you pass through ANS and ITC and you go in, once they invest that money in you, you're never coming out. And I'll say this, and some people, I'm telling you right now, this, Nate, they're like, yeah, cool. That's what I want. I'm going to tell you, true story, badass, highly decorated special operator, got into a firefight, probably his like 15th engagement, 16th, froze, never seen it happen. Like, and one of the other guys told me about it. So it was just nuts. It just, it's like something you saw out of the Pacific, when that one, Gunny had been through all the battles, but he went to this one battle and just freaked out and lost it. Like, it ended his career because he froze, and, really messed him up psychologically. So I'm telling you is that, I lost guys on their 10th combat deployment, highly experienced, badass, but the enemy's always got trickery for you, man. This is real stuff. So this isn't fucking Call of Duty, your little game and all this bullshit. You really got to understand what you're going into. It's not that we don't care, but it's like the shirts I sent to you guys in the War Room chat, the Marine Corps, no lives matter, only the mission matters. That's
no lives matter.
That's I hate to tell you, man, you're going. I don't give a shit. No, the doc's going to come over and say, well, he's got a lot of stress. I got it. I had guys missing legs, guys missing arms, working to deploy again, went on combat deployments, going on raids. Gunny Chris Bannister, fucking hero, man. Lost his leg, went back to deploy with his company. 18 months later, went back into combat. I'm watching him in a hotspot with a drone. He's on a raid. You know what I mean? So I'm saying some of this stuff because you don't hear these stories of these people. No movies, no books. Like, these are no kidding heroes, man. It makes me get short of breath thinking about it. But you got to be ready for nonstop operations until you get out, until you're done. And I know the long war is kind of over, but I mean, special operations, we're always going to find another one for you.
Ben, my former teammate, he's just about to retire. I was talking to him about this. I'm like, how's peacetime military? Because I've been doing a command climate survey of SF that I'm working on with a bunch of guys giving me statements about like what it's like right now. And I said, how is it like peacetime? Because I mean, I was in for a little bit peacetime before I retired a year and a half ago. But he was like, dude, there's no peacetime. There's just pre-war.
Right.
And I'm like, that's
Right.
that's a great way to look at it. Like,
Right.
you're right. We're in pre-war time. We're not in peacetime. So
100%.
you never know what's coming. Especially if you're a young Marine now and you're, 2-3 years in, you want to make a career out of it. 20 years is a long time for foreign conflict in America. Have we ever gone more than 20 years without being in
I
a
don't
major
think so.
conflict?
I was always told that in the Marine Corps when I first came in, they're like, "Oh, it's been 3 years since the last one, so within 6 years you're going to see a direct shooting war again. Don't worry, every 10
Yeah,
years."
it's
So,
pretty. I think that, like, maybe, I mean, I was gonna say Vietnam to Desert Storm, but Vietnam to Desert Storm was only 20 years.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the
It was
longest distances
right.
we've had.
And I'll tell you,
So,
man, like going to Normandy and seeing, like on the way home, flying home from France. I was just in France recently, and for everybody out there, I watched Saving Private Ryan just to kind of get. And I never watch
mm,
war movies. I'm just not into it at all. But I
yeah, me
wanted to
neither.
get an idea, for obvious reasons. And I was like, damn, man, I was just walking on that ground where my great uncle was killed, and I got some of the sand in a bottle. I'm gonna send you some too, Nate. But
Yeah, that's
I was
cool.
just thinking, dude, I was like, I'm so glad I was in the war I was in. I didn't go to Iwo Jima, didn't have to go to Normandy. Combat is always vicious in a small place, but Vietnam, World War II, we
Korea.
saw in Korea. I had another uncle in Korea. One of my uncles has fought in Korea too. And so it's just, dude, and so that's my life message for you. If you want to be a career special operator and you're up for it all the time, and Force Recon, I'm not gonna lie, they used to call it divorce recon. So you got all that
Divorce
going.
recon.
Yeah, you got all that going for you.
Okay. Yeah.
So there we have it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we nailed it on this one. So
Awesome.
thank you to Ben. Ben's gonna have all of his socials in here, especially his YouTube will be at the top. I'll have it linked up in the video multiple places. Make sure you go follow Ben on YouTube. He's got great content. Ben, thank you for coming on the show again. Sure, I'll have you back on next time we got something interesting to talk about. So
Thank you
anything
so
else
much.
for the viewers?
No. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So thanks, Nate. Real pleasure
Yep.
always to be on here.
All right. Later, guys.
Take care.